Looks like we have about 4 participants, so we'll start. However, if anybody joins later, the good thing about Curipod is we always do share the pin code. So if you do have a student or somebody at a webinar who happens to trickle in later, they can always join in and catch up in real time and participate. One more. Okay, so let's get started. So today's webinar is around WIDA access, proven test prep, and how Curipod does provide immediate feedback to close that loop. I'll introduce myself first. So I'm Amanda Akins, the one in the orange cowboy hat. I'm a partnerships manager here at Curipod. My background is in education. I was a school counselor and an ESOP coordinator for 7 years. So super familiar with working with students where English is not their native language. So working with my school and district to leverage purchased resources as well as find those freemium ones to support those students. I also was a WIDA proctor for the access test. So super familiar with the challenges that this test can provide students with. So very excited to talk to you on how we can support these students as well as the WIDA access. And I will pass it over to Sid, who can introduce himself and his role in Harnett County and his background.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Sid Lathan. I'm a district digital teaching and learning coordinator, former principal, former math teacher, former sixth grade science and math teacher. So had a lot of extensive work in education. And when I first met Curipod, I fell in love. It was like a new bride. And anybody experiencing Curipod for the first time, it will be your first love. It will be your go-to for everything. And I hope that you walk away from, this webinar with information to empower and grow your teachers.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you so much for being here. That was us at NC Ties, but I've had the pleasure of visiting Sid and his awesome team at Harnett County to really help implement Curipod with his teachers and students. Great. So as you saw when you joined in, you were given a nickname and then on the back end had to write your real name. That is intentionally part of our design. So we don't take any student information, and that's intentional so that all students feel confident and safe participating in Curipod activities because this is a synchronous experience. So students are expected to write respond with the activities and their name is not associated with it. So makes them feel less vulnerable when it comes to participation.
And Amanda, can I add that teachers absolutely love that feature? They absolutely love that feature because they don't have to worry about running to their computer and
Mm.
shutting it down because kids have used inappropriate names. This takes that worry away from the teacher. So not only are the students comfortable with it, but teachers as well are comfortable with it.
Yeah, that is such a great point. Yeah, because we do assign them the nicknames and they all have been reviewed and we ensure that they are appropriate for the school setting. And then on the moderation tab, which you'll see down here, if I go into open moderation, I can see which student is behind which nickname and in real time what they are doing on their device. So I do have the opportunity to dismiss anything that students are writing that's not appropriate for the classroom, or perhaps just redirect them in real time if it seems like their answers are a little off base or off task. Great. So before we get started, what is Curipod? So Curipod is an AI-powered digital platform that is designed to enhance classroom engagement through interactive lessons and AI student feedback. So today specifically, we are talking about how we support the WIDA access test as well as support English language learners. So what are some problems that we hear most often that ESL departments face? Number one, language barriers. That instruction and feedback can be sometimes inaccessible to students that are especially those newcomers or non-English speaking students. We hear about the demands of the access test. So many students have really great and strong ideas for the written responses. They just can struggle to express themselves using complete grammatically correct sentences and proper transitions and structure. We also hear that students feel a lot of pressure and anxiety when taking this WIDA access test, especially if it's their first time. It feels very high stakes because students, a lot of them, are aware that it can affect their placement, their access to service, and even sometimes like graduation requirements. Social barriers. So we do know that for a lot of ESL students, there can be a sense of isolation or feeling misunderstood because of that language barrier, which can lead to decline in classroom engagement. And then barriers to tech. Some students maybe have never used a computer before. So if they have those limited keyboarding skills, the unfamiliarity with technology, they may spend more time kind of hunting for the keys rather than composing their thoughts when they're trying to complete written assignments. So how can Curipod support these problems and fill in those gaps? So number one, we do have slide translation and we support all languages. So students are able to select a secondary language for them so that they can access not only the content, but the feedback in that native language of theirs. They will also see it in English as well. They get real-time AI feedback. So that is to help close the feedback loop in one class period. Research shows that when feedback is specific, when it's timely, and it's part of the learning process, students are more likely to see increase in scores and improvement in outcomes. We do have test prep for WIDA, which we will do an activity together. We do support engagement. So students have a real-time participation tools. So they will organically just be engaging with their peers and instruction. And then just that natural opportunity for students to practice their typing. So the best way to experience Curipod is to sit in the student seat. So that's what you all will be doing today. So here is going to be our first activity. What are you hoping to learn today? So I'm going to press start activity, and then you can just write on your device. You'll see a text box is going to come up, and you can write what it is that you are hoping to take away from our webinar. It says a minute, but I really will just give you like 30 seconds for the sake of time because we want to make sure that we get to Sid so he can share all of his great information and ideas around Curipod. All right, I'll end the activity. So you've got some responses. So then now what's going to happen on your device is you will be able to vote. And on your device, you will get served up 2 responses at a time. You will vote on the one that you agree with the most that you're hoping to learn about. And then they're going to appear on a podium and we can discuss as a group. So go ahead and take some time just to vote. All right. Awesome. So ways to use Curipod with our multilingual population. Great. Then you're in the right place. How to improve my students' AC. How to use the translation tool. Awesome. We can definitely show you that. Experience WIDA Access Test Prep in Action. And it looks like maybe someone didn't get to complete their thought. But then here you can see in a classroom setting, this is a way for students, especially students who don't feel totally confident raising their hand and participating to get their responses acknowledged. It's so powerful when a student who is typically really quiet and reserved gets voted to the top, really just increases their confidence because I have the ability as a teacher to say, hey, would anybody like to volunteer and share why they wrote this? And because it got so many votes and they got that reinforcing star and they saw how many times it got voted, they're so much more likely to raise their hand and share because they see that their peers agreed and supported their response. What is your role? Okay, so I'm just curious what type of audience we have today. So if you could just write your role really quickly, you'll see that this will appear in a word cloud. All right, we got a couple different responses. So I'll press show in a word cloud, and then I can see we have an instructional tech facilitator, teacher, educator, ESL coordinator. Amazing. This is just another way that you can visualize your students' ideas and responses, but in a different format here in a word cloud. And then the last question I have for you all is, how familiar are you with Curipod? 1, being you've never heard of it, this is the first time, or 5, you are an expert like Sid here. All right. He's even wearing his Curipod orange for us today. Woohoo! Great. Okay, so it seems like everybody's kind of in the middle. Awesome. There's a little bit of background, but we're definitely going to just do a high-level overview of the whole entire platform. All right. So what I did here is I have generated one of our WIDA Access test preps. This one is a tier A, write about a story. So I selected an action for the story to be about. I selected making blueberry pie, but this is where you can really make it personalized to your student interests. So if you have students that really like to play soccer or bake, ride their bikes, you can select any action or event, and it's going to create a story around what you selected. So write a story step by step. Here is going to be our WIDA Access aligned rubric. So we know with the writing component, students can get a maximum of 6 points. Here is going to be the actual breakdown. So today we're going to brainstorm ideas, write a response, get a score and feedback, reflect, discuss, revise to improve. So the first activity is going to be a scaffolding warm-up activity. Mia and Leo gather blueberries in a bowl. Name one thing in the image. I'm not going to have you actually do this because the sake of time, but this is one of the word cloud activities that we just did. So we're giving students examples of what a noun is and what an adjective is. And that is very similar to the WIDA test. They give them those sentence starters. They give them those ideas to help prepare them to do the written portion. So all students would write something they see in this image, and then it would appear on a word cloud, and we could have a class discussion. Next, another scaffolding activity. What is happening in the picture? Write 3 sentences. Mia and Leo are, and you would be able to write, and then students would actually get that feedback on how strong their sentence was. For the sake of time, we won't do that. What does this picture show is happening next? Another sentence starter. They roll, looks like some dough. Students would all respond, and then they would vote on each other's favorite answers. And then here is going to be the portion of the activity which mirrors the WIDA Access writing test. So write the story from start to end. You're going to start with picture 1, write 4 to 6 sentences. Remember, here down at the bottom is going to be your WIDA aligned rubric. So it says start activity. I'm really going to give you just about a minute and write what you see is happening in this picture in sequential order. I don't expect you to get 4 to 6 sentences, but do your best. And as you do that, I am opening up our moderation tab. I have to click open. It's actually going to bring me to a separate tab, and it's not visible until I press OK, because this is going to show student answers. So we want to make sure that students don't have visibility to this particular screen. So I can see who's writing. So then in real time, I can go and do some redirection, do some support if needed for students who haven't gotten started. All right. So I'm going to go ahead. I will press into the activity. Sorry if you did not get to complete it. I got 4 responses. I do have the ability to review responses, review the feedback prior to pushing it out to students, but for the sake of time, I'm going to press give feedback. So now on your individual devices, you are going to get feedback that is personalized to your responses. So we have different responses, so we can anticipate that this feedback, that those scores are going to look different. So Mia cut the fruit, then she used the flour and rolled it out. Then they ate the food. You did a good job starting your story and including some actions from the picture. A score was a 2. And then it's going to break down in these categories, organization and focus, what you can do to improve next time. Same for types and lengths of sentences and for word choices. So then to improve your score, try to include more details from the pictures in your sentences. For instance, instead of Mia cut the fruit, you can write Mia gathered fresh blueberries into a yellow bowl. So incorporating those nouns that they practice in one of our previous scaffolding activities.
Can I throw this out there, Amanda?
Please.
One of the things that is really awesome is that after they get that feedback, you could actually have them physically write on
Mm,
paper because we're growing our students and we don't, I love the fact that we can still use the good old tried and true pencil and paper, but
mm-hmm.
they have a foundation to start and finish because they've just gotten their feedback. So
Yeah.
you could literally let your students look at their feedback and then on in their notebooks, golden notebooks, they literally finish their assignment and have something that they own. Notebooks are ownership.
Mm,
So they would have that example with the correction based on that feedback. How powerful is that? And
yeah.
not only, I love the fact that Curipod supports WIDA, but also think about how it supports your your students with disabilities. Those students too. Those strategies are aligned. So just as you support your WIDA students, you also are going to be supporting your students with learning disabilities who may have difficulty writing, who may not be ESL, but they may have issues the same. And these strategies support them in that same way.
Such a great point. I love how you brought up being able to just use Curipod in different ways. Yeah, that's really the beauty of it, right? You can integrate it into your models that you're using in your district, especially. Yeah, I love that ownership of the notebook. Awesome. So we're not going to take time to look at everybody's responses, but you can see the first one got a 2. This person wrote something else, so they got a 1. So it really is personalized to each individual submission. The next activity, students can all vote. What was the common piece of feedback to make their response better? So then this gives you an idea as the teacher, hey, maybe we need to go back and focus on how to organize thoughts if that's what majority of the students voted. And then you would have the ability to, if you wanted to do it as Sid said, like on a separate paper, or I could actually relaunch the activity again, and students can attempt in one class period to close that loop and improve their score. So they would be able to use their previous response, the feedback that they got, to revise, rewrite, and try for a higher score. And then the last activity is just going to be like a brain break, create artwork that shows what happens next, and then students can vote. So really just wanting to reward them for giving such a great effort on the test prep activity. So now I'll go ahead, I'm going to end the lesson. At the end of every single Curipod lesson that you do, you will get data on class participation. You'll be able to generate insights. So you will be able to see class level data. So what were the common understandings and common misconceptions for your class as a whole around our particular learning objective, which was writing a story about pictures that we saw. And then it's going to flag for us our students who are at risk. So those ones that performed low got lower scores. And then on each student, I can actually generate their insights. So I'll get a glow, a grow, an actionable item for individual students. And then I would be able to see all of their responses. And then I would be able to see the feedback that they got. So if we did take a second attempt, I would be able to see how Jill, the first time attempted, got a lower score, but then her second time she improved. And again, that's just closing the loop in one class period. Now, I quickly just want to highlight a couple of other features in Curipod before I toss it over to Sid. So if I go into Get Lesson, here's where our core solutions are. We have our established daily routines. It's going to be bell ringers, brain breaks, exit tickets, our prepare for testing. So we do have our WIDA for North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, for Florida. We also do have some state test prep as well. Our generate a lesson is where we can actually generate a lesson on any topic, any learning objective, any standard that you're teaching. And I know that there actually are WIDA standards. So what I've done here, I've already created it, is I generated a lesson using one of the language for language arts standards for WIDA for grades 2 through 3. So I hit other subjects, what am I teaching? And I actually just plugged in that standard code. So ELD, LA, 2 through 3, Inform, Express. I selected my grade level. This is third grade. If I want to translate it in any other language, someone had asked that in the question, here is where I would do that right here. I could just select my secondary language. Then I'd go ahead and I would press Get Lesson. What it's going to create for me is a full slideshow with instructional slides, as well as interactive activities with polls, word clouds, and it also has activities with AI feedback. So you can see all I did was upload a standard, and this is what it produced for me. On the left-hand side, you do have tools. So as a teacher, you have the ability to totally customize it, make it your own, and you can translate it here as well. So just to give you an idea of what it's produced, express yourself, words and ideas, an objective slide. Here's going to be a hook for the students. Did you know that the word hello can be said in over 7,000 languages, but expressing what's in your heart is the same in any language? What does this make you think or wonder? And then students would vote. So then let's explore. Here's going to be some content slides. What is expression? Draw a picture of how you feel today. They'll vote on each other's drawings, how words help, which word means to share ideas. Students will all vote. A think, pair, and share activity. So again, encouraging our students to participate with their peers. A brain break, draw a silly monster with 3 eyes and a big smile. Not just words. Draw your favorite way to express yourself. And then to show what you know. Write or draw one new way you learn to express yourself today. And this is a great one because students have the ability to demonstrate their level of understanding and get that feedback if it's written or it's drawn, which is so powerful, especially if they're like pre-literacy right now. And then the last activity, how well do you think you can express your ideas now? So if students need more practice, they can quietly communicate that to their teacher, not feel totally exposed. Hey, I need help, because the teacher is going to see those results on the back end. Then the last 2 things I'll share with you, Curify My Slides. This is where you can upload any pre-existing content that you have, hit Get Lesson, and all it's going to do is analyze the text that's written on those slides, create those interactive activities to go along with it. And then our Build Writing Skills is cross-curricular and focuses on different writing skills. It's gamified, it's immersive, so students get super excited to be able to use these, and they get that automatic feedback after they respond. So different scenarios that our curriculum team has created that they are responding to. So that's a lot, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pass it to Sid. We've got about 7 minutes left, so take it away.
Well, again, everyone, we so appreciate you joining us today. And I'm so honored that Amanda asked me to join in. I do want to say this. When you think about a singular tool that taps into the organic process of instruction, there is nothing better than Curipod. It taps into the organic structure of how we like for lessons to flow. You have your breaks, you have your conversational pieces, you have all of that built into Curipod. And on top of that, you layer on top of that how you can support all of your students at different levels, how you can support students, and it's innocuous. No one knows what the other student is doing or has access to, or even that level, like your WIDA students, like your students with learning disabilities. And what we're seeing in our district is amazing growth. And when I say growth, we're talking about significant impact on student data as it relates to growth, significant impacts on student engagement. 2 areas that really dictate how well students will do. If you can get students engaged, if you can give them immediate feedback, you have won the battle. And we are seeing students highly engaged and seeing the feedback support their growth, which is reflected in their scores. And we have teachers that are using it religiously. And when I say religiously, we have anywhere from 600 creations a week to maybe some days 600 a day because they're using it so vehemently. And so I want to encourage you to really share this with your teachers. It doesn't matter what their discipline is, because if they have stuff that they've already made, if they have some presentations that they already made, upload them or download them as a PDF and curify them. And you will see your presentation that was kind of static become organic, become engaging. It's just no better tool to do that, and it's easy to use. The learning curve is not that difficult,
Mm.
and so we really want to encourage teachers in whatever discipline or curriculum that they're working in to use this. Our high school teachers are using it. Our middle school teachers are using it. Our elementary school teachers are using it religiously. And we are seeing high gains and highly engaging lessons. So be encouraged. And if there's anything I can do, please reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. Quick question for you, Sid, as we wrap up. Do you have any tips for educators who are going to be starting off with Curipod for the first time or trying to get the usage up in their district or at their school? What tips would you give them?
So the way that we did it, and this is something to really think about, um, and this is based on some of my research, that teachers are looking for tools that are ease of use and student friendly. When I say student friendly, highly engaging and with immediate feedback. Curipod checks all of those boxes. And so when the instant you show them that, they are sold. We went into school after school after school, and once they saw the power of the tool and how, and this is the really important thing to think about too. A lot of times when we are teachers, we find things that are closely related to our standard, but it might have a little bleed over or spill over. Well,
Mhm.
with Curipod, you can focus in singularly on a standard, and it is just that standard. It is not something else. It is not because you had to find something that was already pre-made. You're creating this with the help of AI, and it's going to be singularly tethered to that standard. That is also a game changer for teachers because they want something that can support their standard. They can see what students are doing. Once you show them that, they're sold.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you so much for sharing. And you would know best how to get people started because the usage at your district has been so impressive and we're so excited how much it's taken off. And we want to just definitely continue to recreate that across the country.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
anybody
Absolutely.
anybody have any questions? We've got 1 minute left. I don't see any in the chat. So if you do have a question, feel free to drop it in the chat and myself or Sid can answer. But yeah, the last thing I just wanted to share with you all is if you're not signed up for Curipod already, signing up is free. So go to curipod.com, go to sign up. It's going to ask you to put in your information. We just ask that you use your district email domain, and in the school selector, select which school that you are a part of. And then we are going to send some follow-up emails with information about Curipod. We'll link the recording. So if you want to share it with any of your colleagues, any of your friends, please feel free to pass it along. And then we're also going to share with you Sid was humble at the beginning when he was introducing himself. He also is now an author. He wrote a book on generative AI. It's awesome. It's like called Get Your Groove Back. And the acronym is DOPE, and I've got it right here so I can read it. But DOPE, D, deliver real results. O, own your flow. P, push the culture. And E, elevate the everyday. So awesome. So we'll also enter you in a raffle if you signed up to win one
And you
copy
get a book.
and you'll get a book. So yes, that we're super excited about. So that will be in the follow-up email. But if you have any questions, again, once you get that email, don't hesitate to reach out to myself or to Sid directly. Thank you so much for joining everybody, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday.